Hello. I just changed things there. I saw you logged in, but I thought we were meeting at 4 today. I can't hear you. Oh, yeah, you muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can't hear
nice.
you.
Nice. Perfect.
Just going through, Mark Anderson sent me a ton of fixes for the timeline, and he screenshots of PDFs. Like, oh, great. I'm having fun with this. How are you?
Good. Good. I was happy to do this call now. It's a very interesting topic, so yeah, why not earlier?
Somebody else might join us at 4 UK time, but we can always have to keep those. The main thing that I've tried so far was I used ChatGPT to take a collection of text from a timeline in the book, which is quite rough. And I said, can you turn this into an .ics? And it did. So my thinking at this point is we need to deal with the fuzziness, absolutely. But we can really use AI tools for this, and maybe even have them write a temporary visual meta for a document so you don't have to analyze it every time. And that's as far as I've got. Not further. How about you?
So yeah, the last thing I sort of like ended with was the stuff I wrote, which I guess also begs the question of like, is this going to be an author feature, um, reader feature, both? Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
I'll tell you something. I think that was a core key question. So I've had a bit of a problem trying to be coherent towards the last bit I'm writing, but there is one page. So here,
One second. For the video, maybe like, is this? Can you switch the microphone, or can you do something with the microphone, perhaps?
oh, it sounds really bad.
Yeah, or the battery is low. I don't know. It sounds a
I
bit different.
I don't know. You mean it changed when I went into screen share?
No. In general, like from the start already.
Oh, I am in a coffee shop.
Maybe it's a bit of a noise cancellation thing.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Well,
It
it's
you see now it's standard, but now it's pretty noisy background, right?
yeah, correct. Okay. So this I think this is the best of both worlds. And
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can, let's continue with 4. Um, yeah, I just wanted to show you this, which is that maybe it's something like a user can specify the level of fuzziness when something just talks about it, whatever. So the question of whether the author or the user is in charge of specifying how to deal with time, I think is a very important question.
Right. This is reader I'm looking at, or
No, this is just a mock-up.
oh, a mock-up. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just using the software as a mock-up for the ideas, but to make it generalizable.
Mm-hmm. And would this generate iCal inside the PDF, inside the visual meta, or just a separate file?
But my current dream is that somebody opens up a document in Reader, to use my own software as an analogy, and I'll show you. So let's we're on the timeline. So let's say they do it for the whole document, but I can't do that. So they do something like this: find dates and present as whatever we in the community agree, targets.ics. It takes those dates and it makes a giant ICS file out of it. This already works as a mock-up test. Well, mock-up test, I don't know what, but it's not useful because then the next step would be, obviously, I would love to have a timeline view in my own software, but that's very limited. It has to, I think what has to happen now is to have a clear button to copy this. So if Brander has a XR environment or if you have one, just paste it in and it understands this.
Sorry, I didn't get that last part.
It is very important that it becomes open, of course. So the idea is that, um, let's say the user just doesn't actually select anything, but they still have the option to, whatever term we have, turn any dates you can find in this document into this open format. And then if this is maybe a spreadsheet, so the ones that are a mistake, you can just click delete, because there will be mistakes most likely sometimes. And then at the bottom, you have two options, either copy or timeline in this current software you happen to be in. If you do copy, then anybody who builds a timeline will be able to accept that data and show it in whatever way.
Well, it seems you already got it to work quite well. Well, the basic version then.
Yeah, I mean, so what I've done is in Reader, I have this. So it's a OpenAI API. So people can write their own prompt. So instead of the word prompt, I use preface.
Yeah.
So now I just make this a command. So this is all nice and easy. It can be summarized in a sentence. All these previous things. But the
This is
problem is
very
it
cool.
takes time. It's quite cool, but it always takes a bit of time. So that's why the idea of having temporary appendices for AI-generated analysis, I think, should be very useful. You do it once, and then it's instantly available. But of course, if you want to update and do a new analysis, you can do that too.
Right. Yeah, there's a bit of friction on the authoring side of the generated content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in an artificial situation now because I don't know what's happening here. I don't have access to my author coder as easily. He's very busy. I have much better access to my reader coder. So that's why I tend to try to do other things there. But also, we have the problem of, and I say this respectfully, people like Mark Anderson, meaning in our community, there's quite a few people who are really careful about what they produce. I don't think that's normal. So to expect authors to go through and check all the dates, make it's the right format, just like Mark is very good at checking references, we can't expect that of users. So that's why I'm wondering, where can we plug in the AI bit that takes the best effort of the author and presents it in a more robust form quicker the reader can interact with it. That's my perspective anyway.
Wow.
I'm going to try to mute for a second if I can here.
So, allow me to try to summarize it, and if I get it wrong, it might be the audio. But like, is it a matter of you're still figuring out what is the best place for the AI part, and you don't want to expect people to you know specify and write a lot of markup themselves, like Mark Anderson is very capable of. Like, is that? Uh-huh.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And let me paraphrase it back to you because I've been wondering about my own role, what I do, what my
Right.
passion is. And my passion, it turns out, it's very pretentious. So I won't say it to anybody who don't consider a close friend, is elegance. That's what I care about. I care about elegance in visual terms, sure, but very much more in terms of workflow. Right now, AI is a tool, but it's, you're doing something here, and then, whoa, you go over to the AI over here and do something. It doesn't, I think that right now, a contribution we can make is to find a way to tell AI what the real data is, and then in a click or a gesture or as smoothly as possible, get the assistance done, and then take the results into something useful without having to be very nerdy and use all kinds of connecting tools and all of that. Just literally flow. So yes, AI workflow, I think, is a huge opportunity to improve at the moment.
Well, this also ties into a conversation I had yesterday, which was with a person who said that, yeah, AI is gonna sort of like will be the winner who will take it all, and there will be just a few companies left creating all the software. And my stance is more like what you're saying, like, well, who's gonna care about elegance then? Because of course, all you can have a lot of generated applications with a sort of Ask AI context menu where you can sort of in a nerdy way set like everything is possible. Also makes it very hard to sort of do something with it. And so I think this focus on elegance will be um, it's actually an opportunity this to for humans to focus on elegance and how to sort of integrate this AI in a very uh, discreet way almost without um, well, so this pop-up you just showed me, AI, it's also a sort of like it's a sort of workflow stopper. And if I listen to this the story you're telling, is that you're basically curious about, how can sort of the ideas of this be implemented in author and help authors in a very elegant ways without even knowing perhaps that there's AI happening in the background. And would you, and this is the question perhaps, if you would like imagine an elegant way in author to sort of, have more metadata end up in the document, would that be the like author automatically scanning a document when it's loading and sort of maybe offering suggestions, or a sort of enrich button where you can just approve certain metadata ending up or appended to the, or are you favoring a sort of like manual editing of visual meta, which is in a certain way also very easy to do. It's much easier to add a day or year in visual meta than it is in iCal, for example.
I will answer that question as well as I can. And let me put it this way. I think nobody likes to do work. Nobody. In the whole wide world. However, we like to satisfy our curiosities. We like to express ourselves. So there are many work functions humans enjoy, but not when they're considered work. Obviously, the definition here is a bit fuzzy, so please forgive me. So what I mean by that is the more expressiveness and the more curiosity we can satisfy with the least amount of effort, the better. So I think your drilling on this question is very important. I think someone should be able to write in the 1900s, blah, blah, blah. And for that to be somehow found by, let's call it an AI tool, because using the word AI in itself is a bit bland. Found an AI tool at a point which is useful. And that's obviously your question, when did that happen? Part of your question. And so that a reader, without the author having done all kinds of things to make an interactive CD-ROM, lots of buttons manually made, to make them be able to interact with the information in whatever way their own software allows them to do. But I do think it's worthwhile to have a way for the AI tool-generated timeline or date list to be checked. Because sometimes you might write 1800 and it's an address, not a year, for instance, right? But that's not the core issue. The core issue is today, maybe not in 10 years, but today AI actions take a bit of time. So where should we sneak them in? The whole real point of this is in Visual Meta, of course, we already have references organized quite well. So you should be able to take the references from a Visual Meta document right now and slap it onto a timeline. And it should be able to show all the cited work when they were published. That should be relatively easy. And one thing that Adam asked in our Twitter chat, or email rather, sorry, is when this is useful, scenario-wise. I think we could drill down on that a little bit. Because as a demo, we can do very cool things, but when do we actually give a shit about seeing it? And that's when it gets a bit interesting. I don't know, what do you think?
So the last part was a bit hard to understand for me because of the audio, but yeah. So I guess I guess that will be my answer. Is that I did get the part about the fuzziness of AI and the term and yeah, when you started to continue, I also started to sort of wonder, um, how would you envision this timeline from an elegance point of view? Like how will will the author visibly will there be a visible timeline? Let's say a tab switch that you can switch between tab view or sorry, text view and timeline view. Will it be some kind of like an alternate interface, or will it more be, hey, I see you're writing, or I notice you're writing a time here. Do you want to add this to the timeline? Suggestion kind of thing. Is it like a co-writing feature or detection, or do you really want to sort of make it a dedicated way of editing a timeline as well? So that's what I was wondering based on your story. Maybe I'm totally missing the point of your story, but there were some glitches in the audio here and there.
I wrote some notes in the chat. If you can have a look at that, I'm writing another note for you right now.
Yeah. So meaning when people would care about timelines. Yeah, this is a bit of a chicken egg problem. I was actually talking about this with Petra, my wife, right before I jumped into the call. Is that it was a bit shocking to me, this whole idea of being able to read a book as a timeline. I was actually thinking, how bizarre is it that when you hear this idea, you're suddenly sort of confronted with the fact that you have never thought about it because you have never experienced it. It's a bit like um, yeah, if you have never seen an airplane, maybe you won't get the idea to invent it, or and like you wouldn't even know why it's useful. And um, yeah, when would get, well, in a sense, you could, if you extrapolate from this urge for people to, you know, love these summaries by AI, text summaries, then you could also say that a timeline is also just a sort of summary, or maybe actually a sort of a glossary, which we haven't really used. Maybe it was expensive in older days to create a timeline, and perhaps even glossaries. I don't know. But so from that sense, I think it's a bit of a chicken egg problem, which can turn out to be very useful once people start to see and use it.
So my original thinking for timeline way back was you read a book, let's say, about the kings of England, and without there being any explicit mention of time, you can automatically generate a timeline because these people are known and they're available in Wikipedia and other databases. So that's an interesting extension. So you also, and this is what made me smile, you mentioned glossary. One of the key things about a glossary is that it says this is what the author finds to be important. So I can imagine opening a document and having options for what timeline to see. A timeline could be based on only explicitly mentioned times or events, or timeline also including anything in the glossary. So for instance, Windsurf is famous enough to be in Wikipedia, so his birth date would then be a timeline event automatically. But if someone is not in the glossary, it may choose not to include that in the timeline. So that's why if you write a book about the Kings of England or similar history, if you have basic information in the glossary, that's enough to hint to the AI, these are important elements. So this is where it gets really exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, Actually, can you tell a bit more about this glossary or timeline in the glossary? Did you say that? Did I get that right?
The two things that I'm focused on this week that's exciting is one is AI workflow. The other one is hinting to AI. So by hinting, I mean where quote unquote real data is, but also what elements in a large work to use. That's where I think the notion of using the glossary, ignoring what's inside the glossary maybe, but just the glossary meaning this is an important thing in the book. So that when you create a timeline, it creates a timeline based on what can be found in Wikipedia and time, based only on the entries in the glossary, for example. Because a timeline can, of course, include everything.
Hmm.
So it's the hinting aspect.
Yeah, I do like that. Do you have does reader also sort of contain some kind of, or do you envision that it contains some kind of timeline view at some point in time?
No, not at all. However, well, it depends what you mean. So, and it's just the timeline we're talking about now. No, it doesn't. But I will show you. I think that the key thing about a timeline will have to be interactivity. I'm sure you agree. So imagine you're reading here, let's say it's parts, Xerox, no, just Xerox. So you select that and do Command F. It now shows all the entries in the book that has that text. That happens to include the timeline.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. In the sense that we now have a manually created, very, very basic timeline. But, these things come up. We're not going to remember that long. Here's a fun one. Earlier on, Matthias wrote an article that has quite a few time events. It's kind of fun to have that connected to the calendar further down.
Very interesting. This it's very interesting that in this way it would also well, I have complained in the past a lot about that. So many people are sort of overly obsessed with creating databases in very complicated ways. Like I don't know. So many funded projects. They all start with starting some infrastructure, setting up a database, and all these things. While if you just look at how these dates and texts can already be navigated as a database, while it's actually just a PDF on the screen. This is this is really the way to go, I would say, to sort of like get us away from this database, dedicated database obsession. The PDFs is a database already, and a timeline is just a view of a particular part of that PDF. I really like that approach. I also have no, it also shows that this HTML web we got is just one version of all the possibilities we could have had, and I think your what you just showed here is demonstrating that there's so much more we can do with the same data actually.
I'm doing a quick experiment to see if OpenAI can access this kind of data. So just, I agree with you. Of course, what will be even more exciting is if you can layer views. That's where the key is. So for instance, you could imagine Mark Anderson having a really nice curated view of hypertext documents and timelines and connected. I would love to be able to overlay that with something that I happen to be reading. So that's why it's exciting to do this implementation as a truly open approach that is usable rather than one software feature, of course.
Interesting. Would you envision a like two opened reader instances where you could sort of copy paste a certain projection to another document, and which would end up as metadata? Um, because what we're talking about here is like we have the data, we have the text, and we have sort of projections, like these views which you are showing. They are a certain projection of actually the same document, and I'm just thinking like if you would have these, if you would integrate a certain timeline of another PDF, Mark Anderson's PDF, if that's what you're talking about, then that's that would be from an elegance point of view very elegant, that you could just like embed it and or overlay it. And I guess my question is then, would you think the most important use case is just to see the overlay and not necessarily have it sort of leak into the metadata of that particular PDF? Um, like, are you talking about merging or just seeing an overlay?
I am talking about both. I'm just doing, okay. I just did an experiment and it failed. I'll tell you. I think it is really important that we don't constrain beforehand the views so that yes, this didn't have it. Okay, help me. How are we going to do this? Let's do an experiment together. We look at this prompt and I don't know, do I have a timeline? Oh, yeah, timeline. What is that? Okay, let's just see what happens. The simplest prompt, create a timeline of this. A few things I baked in there, but generally not. Because I'm saying it has Skynet and Terminator. What? This is, it's not bad actually. Make it all in one screen. One second. Doesn't have, this is
Yeah,
really informative for us because it doesn't have many dates there, but it starts with prehistoric and goes to future and it organizes it by time.
it's just a chronological summary, sort of, with bullet
Yeah,
points.
much more clever than we expected, huh? Hmm.
Interesting. By the way, one question. Do you happen to be at the coffee shop where you wanted to order the coffee beans at the during the symposium?
No,
And
no, no.
okay, this is a different one.
This is Lavazza. This is where I usually work. It's by Oxford Circus. It's a beautiful place. And I sit at the bar.
It is beautiful, indeed.
It's lovely. Very fancy, quite expensive, but it's cheaper than paying rent.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think what we need, obviously, I read both yours and Adam's emails. And he was, you know, you're both obviously stressing how do we deal with fuzziness. Because when I did some test with it, with making an ICS or iCal, it did do it, but then when I pasted one item into my calendar just to test it, 1984 was defined as 1st of January 1984. That's not useful. So we do need
Mhm.
absolutely a way to show what that means. And I mean, with the systems you have built, maybe you want to build a timeline system and I see with your help and dialogue how to feed that system. Maybe just do it practically without overthinking it.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine also said that there is so many niches for sort of creating your own LLMs instead of relying on OpenAI's ChatGPT, and basically this could be a situation to sort of perhaps train a model with all kind of text and the desired timelines as an output to show that this is sort of the good direction, and or this is the wrong direction. And so such a sort of like timeline summarizer model could be of real value, adding to this elegance issue here, because yeah, it's easy to just generate something using a generic language model, and expect people to tweak the prompts, which is already not so elegant anymore because then people have to become nerdy. So yeah, this is a good observation. Perhaps there is various aspects of author which might benefit from a dedicated model. Uh, yeah, to sort of really um, produce some usable output, which is always guaranteed usable. And yeah, I'm even thinking it could also be the same for iCal. Like at some point, you can sort of give it enough wrong and good iCal results based on the input data that it kind of knows what to do. I am personally, I'm not an expert in rolling your own models, but what I can do already is check the library of models, of existing models. Maybe there is already somebody who, there's so many text classification models, so maybe we could sort of, not invent it, but just sort of borrow it from the community, such models. I will write a quick note that I will research those if there's any existing model out there. And
Yeah,
the
it would
fun,
be.
yeah.
No, no, please.
So the what I also discovered is that it's called ONNX. It's a format for sort of portable models, which can actually sometimes be so small and fast that it can just be sort of embedded into your application so that you don't need any web requests to open AI. And it could be an interesting way to just run it locally very quickly.
I'm very keen on that. I'm very keen on being able to train uh, a future of text LLM based on our books and all our materials, for instance. Absolutely. I think that would be very interesting.
I'm writing that down.
It's kind of weird with prompts because we have to remember we interface wise, we're dealing with a person. We have to say please and then and you and all of that stuff. It's so hard. This is not working right. Oh, here we go. I have another idea. Here's a smaller one. So mixed reality, fast AI, when was this invented? Super high stakes available. You see, it has it. Now we just need to find a way for that to come out in a tabular form.
This is cool, yeah.
So if we can properly chain together, first find any names in this section. Let's see if it does it for a human, for birth. Oh my God. What do you think of that?
That is very cool. Wow. It becomes a learning paradise, this document.
Let's see how this goes. Come
Cool.
on.
Oh, but yeah, it could be a hallucination though.
It could be. It could be. That's why, look at that.
Mm.
Yeah, I really want this to be feedable as a batch into a system. Here we go. First one. I like keyboard shortcuts, but when you have lots of options. Oh, Brian Cox. Okay, I didn't get the whole name. That's amazing.
This is pretty cool. By the way, going back to your conclusion that people don't want to do work, um, reading is also work, and perhaps all
Oh,
these
absolutely. Absolutely.
all these AI questions, they sort of go take us back to the question: what do you want to get out of this this document?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly key. Exactly key. We're talking of which, I think we need to let's finish this half past, and then I'll transcribe and I'll put it up. See if anyone will join us at 4. Will you be able to be here at 4 or 5 your time? There's a
Sorry,
chance that Brando may be off.
okay, at 5, I think I can jump in. I'm not sure how long, but yeah, let's see. I am. This was a great introduction to the whole matter. So thank you for that.
Thank you. This is exactly the kind of discussions we need to have to understand, though. We still need, so you're asking about scenario now. You know, what do people want to get out of this document? Absolutely. Um, there are a few workflows we need to deal with. One of them I have to try to do, which is taking a large amount of text and having a procedure to break it up into chunks to send to ChatGPT. That in itself is a boring thing. Because not everybody wants to select many pages. They want to just speak to the whole document, so to speak, right? But beyond that, we need to ask these AIs to give us the result, especially related to timeline, in a format that is useful for us. So that, for instance, the Brando Wikipedia style timeline where you look like this, they can literally just appear there. I think that's going to be such an amazing thing. What do you
Indeed. I have one more thing. I'm not sure how it's related, but maybe it is. But since we're sort of zooming out of like what do we want to get out of this document, and these quick AI features sort of bring us back to that um, or realization. I didn't I couldn't find yet the phrase which I wanted to sort of like email you about, which I because of this reference to another future of textbook. So there is friction there. I have to. I'm not sure if I read it in volume 1 or 2. So I, for just a few seconds when you were talking, I could imagine a use case, maybe it's a ridiculous use case, but to make future of text one like all the future of text one PDF, and that with one file name, so without the volume. And this PDF you can download every year, and it gets bigger and bigger. And if you open it in Author, the whole experience becomes more rich and everything. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that separate files also have advantages, but also disadvantages in my case of trying to find the reference. Yeah.
Yes, this is crucial. I consider this an issue of bindings. I absolutely want Visual Native to support this, meaning, let's say you are reading an article in one future text and you share that with one friend, just those 2 or 3 pages, easy to extract. That friend should then be able to open that, read only that, but also quite literally click a button to have the entire volume appear around it, or all the volumes that have been created in that series. For exactly that reason. I think that this is really important, absolutely.
Yeah, extrapolating on this conversation, I think the future of text book is much more than a book. Like it's almost as if the word book or ebook is not really applying anymore to what we're talking about here. It's a bit like you also mentioned that the word HCI, human computer interaction, to sort of like keep promoting that word is not really useful in XR. Like, how cool would it be if people go to the Future of Text website and getting an experience or sort of realizing an experience which really transcends everything books have ever tried to do. Yeah, and okay, unfortunately now it's only Reader which gives us this window to this world, uh, basically residing in one single PDF, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But yeah, it's really I really like this where this is pointing to.
I agree with everything you're saying. And when it comes to scenarios and what people want, I think it has to do with interaction. People need to decide. They can free decide some. Also, there's the notion of spark point, where your curiosity is slightly sparked by something, questioning or want to know more. If we can provide very smooth access to fulfilling those sparks. I mean, this is why the tool Richard was invented, for exactly that reason. You come across text and you're wondering what it is. But we can do that in a much richer way now. And as far as timelines are concerned, um, it's not that hard, probably, with time and effort to do it in one environment, but it'll be so exciting to do it in different environments. Um, I mean, you are also working with XR, of course, but even the stuff that Brando has already made, I just wish we had the means through which somebody can be reading a document and doing a simple thing and then go into one of those timelines and it's just there, smooth access.
Yeah, good point. So I guess we should continue this at 5, perhaps. And also, like maybe one teaser question for you then is, often you have mentioned the phrase information ghettos. Maybe we should also talk about how to prevent, this is my concern, to prevent that visual meta will become a metadata ghetto, basically that it does too much, and sort of like gets distracted by its core, from its core mission. This is my concern. Probably you have a lot of good thoughts about this, but that would be maybe also a nice thing to zoom into as well.
I have an immediate concern, reply to that, and that is, I think the notion, it was actually Peter who brought it up first, of having more than one appendix is part of the solution, because it means they're really easy to decide which ones are relevant. Even just scanning with a human eye, I'm only interested in the AI analysis bit or whatever. So yes, it needs to be very, very easy to comb through this metadata. Once it starts becoming JSON and all kinds of things hidden together, only the person who wrote it knows what it is, then it's completely failed. It's no longer visual, it's just meta. So on that note, I'll keep thinking about that, but I look forward to seeing you 4 my time, 5 my time, and we'll dig some deeper. I'll be home then, so it'll be significantly quieter.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right. I'm
See you
gonna grab
soon.
a coffee then. All right.
Yeah, you do that.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.